Hello everyone, I'm Alex Dykes, and today we're out here taking a look at the 2014 and 2015 Kia Soul. This is of course a Graco Classic Ride 50 child seat, which is a fairly average-sized child seat. On this review, we'll be finding out how well 1, 2, and 3 child seats fit inside the Soul. If you want to know more about this particular vehicle, then this review will be coming up in about a day or so. This is the Soul Exclaim model, or exclamation point. If you want to know more about the lower end trims of the Soul, I also have a video of the 2014 Kia Soul Plus available on my channel as well. There's no corresponding child seat video, so this one goes with that review as well. Before we dive on the inside, let's talk about how big the Soul is and how big the Soul isn't. If it's not obvious from this particular camera angle right here, the Soul is not a terribly long vehicle. In fact, it's a decent amount shorter than a Honda Civic, a Toyota Corolla, a Kia Forte, or a Hyundai Elantra. Vehicles are a combination of hard and soft points. Hard points would be things like the engine compartment, because you can't really shrink it too much and still fit an engine under there. We also have a relatively hard point involved with stuffing an average-sized adult in the front seat. That really means that the smaller the vehicle gets, the less room we have right here in the back for passengers, and the less room we have right back here for cargo. Very much like the Nissan Cube, the Scion XB, and the Fiat 500L, even though the vehicle isn't terribly long, we have a very upright rear seating position, and that really makes it a lot more comfortable than you might assume based solely on the rear seat legroom numbers. So if you take a look at something like this versus a Honda Civic, an Elantra, or that Corolla, we have a decently comfortable back seat. This front seat is all the way back in its tracks, and I still have about an inch of legroom left right there. Headroom is also an area where these boxy compacts also excel. Even though our model has this enormous sunroof, I still have about an inch and a half of headroom left right here in the rear. You'd get about an extra inch and a half if you didn't get the sunroof. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to inserting rear-facing child seats, there's just no getting around the fact that there's not quite as much distance between the front seat back and the rear seat back as you'll find in something like a Corolla or a Civic. Again, this front seat is all the way back in its tracks, and it's just not possible to get this child safety seat in a position that's actually appropriate for this vehicle. There's a little ball right over there in a track, and you have to get it in the green zone. That's not happening right over there. Now, if I move it on over to the driver's side, it still won't work with me in this front seat comfortably at 6 feet tall. In order to safely accommodate that child seat behind me, I did have to move a decent amount closer to the steering wheel than I would generally like. Fortunately, we do have a tilt telescopic steering column, so it is still possible to get a safe distance from the airbag for a 6-foot-tall driver. Now that I've readjusted the driver's seat, I do have just about enough room for this rearward-facing child seat sitting right behind myself. Like most vehicles sold in the US, we only have latch anchors for the outboard seating positions. They're very easy to get to because they're not terribly buried behind the seat back. Even though they are relatively close to the surface, they're still very comfortable for adults sitting in the seat because they're decently offset to the sides. I spoke about vehicle size earlier because it is really key to understanding what the Soul is. It's not a crossover vehicle, and it's not trying to be an alternative to something like a RAV4 or a CR-V. It's really obvious when you get in the back with 2 child seats how relatively compact the Soul is. Now, if I go ahead and strap myself in, it is relatively easy next to these 2 child seats. However, the center child seat is encroaching on my outboard seat position. A benefit of the very upright seating position we have going on in this vehicle is that I didn't have to remove any of the headrests in order to insert these child seats in the correct position in the car. Another nice touch is that if you're going to use this center seat, since we don't have latch anchors dedicated for the center seat, we do have to use the shoulder belt. The shoulder belt is actually integrated into the seat back itself. It doesn't come out of the ceiling right back here like you'll find in certain crossover vehicles. The reason I mention that is when the seat is actually attached to the seat back itself rather than to the ceiling, the angle is a little bit more advantageous for a child seat. It makes the child seat more secure in the vehicle because it's really gripping it right back here to the seat itself, not to some other fixed point in the car that's actually usually quite far off to the side. So if you take a look at most of those vehicles that have a center seat belt coming out of the ceiling, they're usually quite far over here to the passenger side of the vehicle, and that really does cause the seat to torque just a little bit in the seat when you compare it to vehicles where the center seat belt comes out of the seat itself. It's now time for the 3 across child seat test, and as you'd expect with a vehicle like this, things are a bit snug back here. The outboard child seats right over here and right over here are touching the door panels, most notably the armrests. They're a little bit close to this upper portion of the door right here by the window as well. Side impacts are, of course, the reason you should be careful about this kind of situation, because in the event of a side impact, the door will move a decent amount inboard depending on how fast that collision is or what really hits you there as well. You also want a decent amount of room right here between the child seat and the window, because the side curtain airbag is going to descend in this fashion right here, and you don't want the child seat to be interfering with the deployment of that side curtain airbag. The side curtain airbag in general is fine in terms of interaction with child seats. It really doesn't pose a safety issue for children at all, except if the child seat is interfering with the deployment of that side curtain airbag. So if this child seat is too close to the window or too close to the door, that side curtain airbag won't deploy properly, and it won't deploy right here between the window and the child seat. It could actually deploy into the child seat, and that would be a bad situation for your child. What this really means to you is that if you do plan on putting 3 child seats across the back of any car, not just this particular vehicle, you should pay close attention to how those child seats interact with the vehicle's safety systems. There are narrower child seats available as well as wider child seats available. These are relatively average in terms of overall dimensions in the segment. So if you do need to put 3 child seats across the back and you are worried about their proximity to the door, go ahead and find a narrower child seat. This is a 26-inch roller bag and this is a 24-inch roller bag, and I had difficulties inserting them right back here under the tonneau cover at the same time. Now, of course, if I remove this tonneau cover, you can put this kind of roller bag in an upright position right back here in the cargo area. You can easily put both of them right back there and maybe some other small bag right next to it. What's more interesting about the cargo area is how deep it is. If I remove this cargo load floor right here from the vehicle and push it towards the seat back, it reveals a very large cargo storage divider right here. You can see how deep that is. It's about 6 inches deep or so. And it's the entire width of the cargo compartment. This is also removable. If I pull that out of the vehicle, then now you can see that we have a donut spare tire location right here. Our particular model doesn't have the donut spare tire in the well. Instead, we get this can of Fix-A-Flat and an inflator, but it is removable from the vehicle. And if I do pull that out, you can see how large this compartment is. With the inflator removed, in our particular vehicle, I can very easily put this 24-inch roller bag right there, and then actually put this load floor right back on top of everything. With the load floor in place, you can see that you can very easily fit a decent amount of cargo right there in that well. You can see this load floor isn't even touching the top of this bag. I, of course, have plenty of room to insert this can of Fix-A-Flat and inflator right there next to everything if you so desire, and still put a decent amount more cargo on top of this load floor. Now, if you do get the donut spare tire, we still have that cargo divider, but we do get a little bit less space if you want to remove the divider and insert your luggage in this fashion. Now, I know it is a little bit unusual to disassemble the car like this before inserting child seats and testing the capacity, but I think honestly, if I bought a Soul, I would probably do this, especially if I got the model without the spare tire. I would just take out that cargo divider and I would use this cargo compartment to its maximum capacity. Let's see how those seats fit. I'm going to put this cargo mat down there first, see how well that works. As you can see, if you remove the load floor, it is very easy to fit 3 child seats right here under the tonneau cover. If we didn't remove the load floor, I can only fit about 2 child seats in there right on top of the load floor. Now, if you need to carry 3 child seats and luggage, that is still relatively easily accomplished. I can insert this 26-inch roller bag there right next to the child seats. Then I can put this 24-inch roller bag right here sort of on top of the child seats. I still have a decent amount of room to actually see out of the back, and I can close the rear hatch. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. Again, I'm Alex Dykes, and this has been the Kia Soul. If you want to know more about the Kia Soul Exclaim, then go ahead and click that subscribe banner at the bottom of your screen. The full review of this vehicle will be up in about 1 to 2 days. You can also find me over at facebook.com/AlexandAutos. You can email your questions to alex@alexandautos.com, and I'll see you next week.